The #1 selling product of its kind with over 20 years of research and innovation. Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, is a prescription medicine used to temporarily make moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines look better in adults.
Effects of Botox Cosmetic may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions before injection are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have a skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow and eyelid drooping, and eyelid swelling. Allergic reactions can include rash, welts, asthma symptoms, and dizziness. Tell your doctor about medical history, muscle or nerve conditions including ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease, myasthenia gravis, or Lambert-Eaton syndrome, and medications, including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. For full safety information, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
See for yourself at BotoxCosmetic.com.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I'm going to talk about how preoccupied men do not understand how they're turning off their wives. And this ranges with everything from touch to romance to everything else. And before we get to that, please do subscribe. Most recent subscriber episode was on vibrators and how they may be creating sexual distance in your relationship or distance in your sexual relationship. Okay, so a lot of guys who are more preoccupied attachment are following exactly the wrong advice on the internet. They're following the advice for avoidant guys. So be more romantic, be more attentive. So this always reminds me of how, the American Medical Association at some point said the kids should only have 2 hours of screen time a day. And then in COVID, everybody just forgot about that. And the kids had screen time 7 million hours a day. But the point is, and I would tell this to very anxious parents that I worked with, they don't care, that you are having your kid watch 2 hours and 10 minutes of Bluey. What they care about is that people don't think it's okay that you just leave it on for 14 hours and that's all that the kid engages with is the television, right? So there's advice that is geared toward one subset of people that the other anxious subset of people takes and obsesses over. So it's the same thing with preoccupied versus avoidant men. An avoidant man that never gives his wife a compliment should definitely focus on giving more compliments. A preoccupied attachment man should give less compliments because she doesn't like it. It's becoming like somebody following you around like Pepe Le Pew with a skunk that I always mention in the cartoon. It's too much. It's very obviously not about her. It's about his insecurity. She knows whoever he was married to or whatever woman he was around, he would act the same. It doesn't seem like it's about her because she doesn't like it, and he still does it. So it's a reassurance-seeking mechanism. Now, this comes out even with touch, right? So the preoccupied attachment guys are like, oh, shit, I got this one in the bag. I just read that women want non-sexual physical touch, so I am going to give her 7,000 hugs a day. Stop. This is not helping you. This is hurting you, right? So she doesn't want 7,000 hugs a day. Let her come to you for a hug if she wants hugs. Now, if she says to you, and she won't if you're preoccupied, if she says to you, man, I want more non-sexual physical touch, great. Your wife just pursued you. She asked you for something. The common mistake of the preoccupied attachment guy is to say, I'm going to give it to her before she asks so that she never has a problem with me because my self-esteem is so low and I'm so rejection sensitive that I don't think I could tolerate her having an actual complaint. So instead, I'm going to front load every bit of relationship advice I ever saw on the internet, most of which, of course, is geared toward avoidant men, as that's most insecurely attached men. are avoidant, as I've said numerous times, but you would not think that if you're only in internet spaces populated by preoccupied men, such as relationship forums. And so the man thinks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out ahead of anything, and I'm going to, execute on every possible piece of romantic advice in the whole universe. And then she will never have a problem with me, and I will never have to face the searing pain and self-doubt if she were to ever say that I did anything wrong. Whereas the reality is if the avoidant woman says, why don't you ever touch me anymore? That's like the best situation you could be in. She's like saying that it bothers her that you're not touching her. That would be great, right? I mean, it would indicate she was thinking about you and about the relationship and she wanted more touch. It's more probably how it was at the beginning when you were not so around and obsessive, right? Because maybe you had other things to obsess about, like your job or friends or anything else, So non-sexual physical touch is a big one that preoccupied guys do too much, right? And another one that many preoccupied guys do too much of is stuff around the house. So yes, of course, an emotionally avoidant guy who focuses mostly on work and hobbies and comes home, eats something, puts it half eaten back into the fridge and goes to bed. Yeah, he needs to do a lot more around the house. He's being a dick, right? He's letting her do everything. And of course, she's complicit in that martyrdom. As I discuss infinity times and infinity ways, it takes two to tango and to create a man-child and his long-suffering wife relationship. That's the title of one of my chapters in my Couples You Meet in Counseling book. But point being, yeah, of course, I even have a podcast. Like, you can't be a loving husband without doing chores. Because you can, because you're co-running a fucking household, right? So of course you got to. But the preoccupied guy is like, hey, I see all that stuff on the internet. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do every single thing in the house. Cool, right? Then she's got no complaints. I never again have to face the visceral pain of even the thought of potentially being criticized. Don't want to work on that? No, siree. Instead, what I'd rather do is overfunction like a lunatic and do every single thing in the house even before she asks. Well, guess what? If you do every single thing around the house before she asks, guess what? You're doing it for you. She doesn't think you're doing it for her or for the family. You just come off like an anxious person that has to be highly organized and manage the house. And honestly, since you start managing the whole house, then you start to get annoyed if she leaves a dish in the sink and the whole thing is inverted and she becomes the asshole that does as little as possible, like the guy that I said in the previous example, right? So this is not what to do either, because obviously this is imbalanced as well. So every single thing, this is the TLDR, every single thing as a preoccupied attachment man, if you see advice from an aggrieved woman on the internet, 100% she's preoccupied. Avoidant women do not engage with relationship content. This could be your most practical advice ever. This could be a life-changing moment. The women who complain on the internet and the men who complain on the internet are both preoccupied attachment or fearful avoidant. More likely, honestly, fearful avoidant, which is even worse. That's the one you get when your childhood is traumatic. And you're even more distrustful of other people and even more chaotic in your relationships. Not your fault. You grew up in a difficult upbringing, and you should listen to my podcast, but on fearful avoidant. But point is, do not take advice from preoccupied attachment women who make long videos about my husband is such an asshole because he doesn't do the dishes. This woman is you. She's the you. So you should not be, your wife isn't her. Your wife has nothing to do with her. Your wife, if you're preoccupied, your avoidant wife would no sooner make a video on the internet about how you didn't do the dishes than she would make an OnlyFans account, right? She'd be quicker to make an OnlyFans account. Really, like she would sooner be an astronaut and go to Mars than air some dirty laundry grievance in a whiny way, she would think, and really is the case, about her husband not doing something for her within their relationship in order to get the emotional support from other women complaining about their husband. I mean, when you think about it, can you think of anything your wife is less likely to do in the entire world? No. No. So then why are you taking the advice that you see from women? Because this is what preoccupied attachment men do. They take advice from two people, preoccupied attachment women and preoccupied attachment men. And I'm just saying, like, before, eventually if things get bad enough, they'll come into therapy, or, they'll read some actual books written by somebody who, has some training or something. But the point is, early stages are the preoccupied attachment person looks up advice from other preoccupied attachment people. That makes no sense. The preoccupied attachment guys are the ones creating relationship content and saying, like, I can't remember the name now, but there's a guy who's always saying how he should be doing more emotional labor. Yeah, no, he should be doing probably a lot less emotional labor, unless he's just a masterful business person. And so this is, well, he is, right? Because, I've seen his content. So then a lot of people must see him and pay him. And that's great, and maybe even some people whose wives have a problem with their emotional labor reach out to this guy. But most of the people that he's talking about, I'm learning to give more emotional labor, most of the comments are by women, other preoccupied attachment women who are like, oh, I wish that my husband would watch you. But he doesn't, because he's avoidant. Just like your wife does not identify with the women who want more non-sexual physical touch, more chores done around the house, more this, more that. What does she want then, you're going to say? She wants you to calm down. And I would say this to most of my career early was with preoccupied attachment women. The more casual, the more common, a woman with an emotionally unavailable husband that can't express his feelings. And she would say, what does he want from me? I try to give him, hugs and kisses and cuddles. And then we read relationship books together and I send him podcasts, and I'm trying really to deeply understand his relationship with his mother, because I feel like that is really the problem. And then, of course, I got him evaluated for autism and narcissism and Asperger's and blah, 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 blah. I said, we know what he wants you to do? Calm down. That's what he wants you to do. Calm down. Get your own things going. Get your own life. Get your own hobbies, your own friends, etc. And then maybe he will not feel like a bug under the microscope. And simultaneously, he can work with someone else that's not you, like a therapist, or, the couples therapist, like the actual couples therapy we would literally be sitting in, on expressing his feelings. But he cannot even move because the intensity of your need, which is not about him, but about you and the needs that you did not get met in early life, he cannot even move because he feels paralyzed under the beam of this unrelenting, intense energy, intense, anxious energy. So it's the same exact thing for men that act like this. You need to do less altogether. And that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm going to be a big alpha and I'm going to start golfing and fuck the laundry. I don't do that anymore. Obviously, you cannot just say to her, you know what? I've realized I've taken over everything in the house and now you fucking on your own. No, of course not. What you should do, though, is have a conversation if you actually do feel that you've taken over everything. And I have a podcast, Are There Really Men Who Do Everything? And I talk about this dynamic. Because some guys really are. Because of their level of anxiety, and usually it's not just her being avoided in these cases. It's usually mental illness, depression, trauma, anxiety, whatever it is. She's sitting around, or she's in bed and he's taking care of everything, or she's drinking, or she's, addicted to something else. So it's not usually just avoidant. With avoidant, what happens is he makes sure to do exactly maybe 60%, because he never wants her to say it's only 49%, and then he's too anxious to make it 51%, so then he makes it 60% in his head. And then he says, basically, it's a covert contract, like they say in the nice guy literature, right? He's saying, if I do 60% of the things in the home, then I am 20% better than, these guys I hear about, 100% better than them and 20% better than average. And so therefore you ought to love me. And then, of course, she's like, no, you're just doing the laundry. Like, why? What I would love is for you to, chill out and leave me alone and maybe let me miss you or something. These are the women that are begging their husbands to travel or get a hobby or something, because they never get to miss this guy. He's following them around like a dog around the house all the time. And it's the exact same thing when preoccupied attachment women do it. They follow the guy around. They follow him around. They follow him around. And eventually he wants to jump out the window, and run down the street and get away because she's up his ass too much. And so if this describes your dynamic, couples counseling can really, really help, because this isn't about both of you. It predates this relationship altogether. Really, it's about the needs that you did not get met growing up, this avoidant and preoccupied dance, and I have so much about it. And if you did not learn to trust people in your earliest life, then you do not trust relationships. You either do not open up enough, or you obsessively fixate on doing everything perfectly so that you finally get loved in a way that you did not get loved and accepted as a child. Individual therapy can help too if that resonates with you. The preoccupied attachment person wants to talk about relationships. So good, talk about relationships on your own with somebody else who's actually trying to help you, not in relationship forums like obsessively, especially not in echo chambers. That's what I like so much about the Facebook group I have, the secret group, which of course you could always join, blue subscribe button. First of all, not only am I there to lend, my perspective, but it's the tone, the culture is that you're not supposed to shit on people, right? So when people say, my wife is so bad or my husband is so bad because of XYZ, the culture of it is then people say, well, what would they say about you? Right? And that is absent from a lot of the relationship content that I see on main social media pages, where it's like an echo chamber, like, oh yeah, man, my wife's a bitch too. Oh yeah, my husband's an asshole too. What does that get you? It gets you absolutely nothing except to feel angrier and to feel more set in your ways and more validated when you're actually the one who, like everybody, is contributing to your own marital distress. And if you're preoccupied, it is via this constant obsessive haranguement of the other person. All right, so as a summary statement, if you are the preoccupied attachment person, take this as your clarion call, right? To step back, stop over-functioning. I have podcasts on over-functioning. Think about who you saw do this in your early life. One parent was definitely a martyred over-functioner, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't know how to do it. And consider therapy, right? Consider talking to somebody about why you do these things. They're not working. You're a smart person if you're listening to the Dr. Psych Mom show, but yet you continue to do it. And that's the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over, right? And also really look at the content that you consume. If the content that you consume is getting you riled up and feel more victimized, then it's not good. It should be something that is like, oh, hey, maybe I too can contribute to this issue, and therefore I have agency and autonomy and the ability to change my situation. If content only makes you feel angry and victimized, it's unhealthy. It's like just getting drunk or something. It's just for a dopamine hit of feeling victimized. And hopefully you do not want to stay in the place of feeling like a victim, but rather you want to have agency and power over your own destiny. And therefore that means looking in at your own behavior and thinking about how you've contributed to any sorts of outcomes in your life or that you find unfulfilling. All right, hope you enjoyed that pep talk. Thank you for listening. Please do subscribe, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Have a great day.